Greetings, Zimbabwe, Africa, and the world. Welcome to a show that we call In Conversation with Trevor, where we seek to go beyond the headlines. We seek to go beyond the sensational as we're engaged in robust conversations that will help move this nation forward. We'll be inviting leaders from politics, business, and the rest of society to participate in these conversations. Today, we're in conversation with our Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, Professor Mthuli Ncube. All right. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
Are you comfortable?
Very comfortable indeed. Good morning, everyone.
Shall we start at the beginning? And the beginning is your appointment was a surprise to everybody. Was it a surprise to you?
It was a surprise to me, for sure. I was very comfortable where I was, frankly, in private equity. And I also shuffling between Switzerland and Oxford, teaching students about how to do public policy and do business in Africa. MBA students, MPA students at Oxford, and then a private equity in Switzerland. So I was very comfortable, and the call came, and I thought this is a good chance for me to contribute to uplifting Zimbabwe.
What motivated you to, first of all, what went through your mind when you got the call?
What went through my mind was actually relocation. It's never easy to relocate yourself and family. From Zimbabwe, I relocated to South Africa. When I was busy being Dean of Wits Business School, and enjoying that, and so forth. Some of my students are in the room. Then I had to relocate to Tunisia. In the middle of all that, after a year into Tunisia, there I was, there's a revolution. So many upheavals. Lucky enough, my family hadn't been on board by then. And then after that, I relocated to the UK and then to Switzerland. So I had moved around quite a bit, and I thought, am I going to move again? But then I thought, look, this is going back home, and I've been given the opportunity to go and contribute and turn things around. So after like a day or so, I was very upbeat and really gung-ho.
Some people would have said you were, for lack of a better word, this is a tough job, given the environment and where we've come from. Why would you take such a job, Minister?
It reminds me, a week after someone gave me a call, one of the ministers of finance in the region, he says, Minister, I think you are the only minister in Africa, maybe in the world, who's going to have a real job. So what? and I wake up every day and I think I have a real job compared to what my colleagues are going through in the region. They have a far easier time. So it is a tough job, but someone needs to do it. And I think that this kind of job, you need to be someone who understands complexity. Someone who can deal with complexity, because your day can be like, this conversation. You get in the office, you have a meeting with someone who's trying to help Zimbabwe adopt cryptocurrency. Before you know it, you get a call on a project that's not going very well in Mzarabane, and you have to deal with it and help your official on the ground. So the swings are incredible, and you have to put it all together, understand everything, and compartmentalize. You need to understand complexity.
Which brings me to the point, you've been in charge now for 10 months. What has been the biggest surprise for you?
I think the surprise for me has been the extent of the deficit when I came in. I knew it was big, but I didn't realize it was that big. And you can see what went through my mind when I thought about tackling it. Now you know where the 2% tax came from, when I saw the extent of the hole. The other surprise was just the nature of the adversarial nature of politics, especially in parliament. That has always surprised me. The shouting, the name calling, finger pointing, which is always very unproductive. And those who know me well, you know that I like to get on with things. I don't spend time arguing, and I hate that. I want to focus on something and just get on with it. So that has been a surprise.
The deficit.
The deficit.
Your office is where politics meets reality.
That's right.
How have you been able to manage this?
Well, initially I thought it was a finance job. Then very quickly it became a finance political job, and most of the time it's a political job. Because at the end of the day, you have to recognize that finance follows strategy, finance, in government, finance will follow politics. It is a political job, and you have to juggle, you have to realize that certain demands are political to meet political ends. There's a manifesto, there's a party in power, it has to deliver on what it had promised. So what I have to do now is also have to check whether my budgets, whether the Transitional Stabilization Program also speak to a manifesto that was a promise to the people.
Which is a political
It's a political issue. Absolutely.
And yours is to deliver the finance side.
Yeah. Luckily for me, what is in the manifesto of the ruling party ZANU-PF is exactly what I have in my TSP. So it works, but the pressures are there. The other day I had to deal with an issue around rural community projects, which are clearly have a very strong political nature. But then you say, you know what, while it sounds political, it's about people. Communities, they need to learn to bake bread, they need to take their kids to school, they need to be able to afford health care, they need roads. It's about people. Then you say, you know what, yes, it's political, but it's about people. That's what maybe this job is
Share
about.
with us you've been very unpopular for the 2%. Some call you Mr. 2%. I'll get your nicknames down the line. But let's deal with this 2%. What was your thinking? I mean, that's bold, that's brave.
You know what? I thought to myself, here's an economy which is which probably got the highest level of electronic money usage in the world right now. I think Zimbabwe has overtaken Kenya. So that's one, in the form of the RTGS dollar. That's one. Number two, I have a deficit. Number three, I have $3.5 billion, which has been collected by corporates, but not remitted to Treasury. $3.5 billion. So what happened was my predecessor had to approach the central bank and was using the central bank window to the tune of $3 billion. So with that additional debt as well. And then four, you say there's this huge informal sector, the economy is informalized. How do I get the informal sector on board to pay their dues to the government, to society? So I said, you know what? I think the best route is some tax based on usage of electronic money. That's where the 2% came about. It just turns out to be quite an innovation, actually. I get 100% compliance. Everyone pays. You only don't pay if we say don't pay, you know. And there are people who have come forward to say, Minister, given that this works so well, why don't you reduce other taxes and increase this?
And what are you thinking about that?
You know what? It's a very attractive proposal.
Okay.
Very attractive indeed. So in my next budget, I'm actually mulling over that, whether I should actually.
So are you promising these guys tax reduction in certain areas?
You know what they say, you must never announce policy in an interview. So I'm not promising them anything, but I'm thinking about it.
You're thinking about it.
I'm actually thinking about it. Because I'm getting the compliance that I need.
Let's deal with the insensitivity of the 2%, where people are saying, yes, we see what you're trying to do, but you're hurting the people out in CSO and that kind of stuff. What's your response to that?
Well, you know what, we maybe have to see how we can adjust our exemptions. It's about exemptions. We said that, look, anyone with a transaction of about $10 and below shouldn't pay the tax. Clearly that has to be raised, given the level of inflation and so forth. So we're going to do that. We're going to do that.
Right.
So it's not that we're insensitive. Actually, it's an inclusive tax to that extent that we don't want those who are not as advantaged as you as me and me, they shouldn't be paying that tax at all. And if you look at the pensioners' wages to government, there's a whole list of exemptions that we put in place. But also there are other exemptions where I'm thinking, hang on, was it a wise idea to I won't mention the one that I'm thinking of removing one of those exemptions, actually.
Okay, but we now have a lot of exemptions. Is that an ideal space to be in?
I think so. I think so. I would say there may still be some fine-tuning. There's one issue that I think I may remove on the exemptions, and then something else
that I may add. And you're not going to share it now?
No, I'm not going to share it now.
Okay, all right.
it would have to be a budget issue. So there's still 6 months to think about it.
So let's get to your nicknames. Do you know which one is your popular nickname?
I have no clue.
Mr. Budget Surplus, Mr. 2%. Anybody who's got a nickname out there to shout it out for the minister? So let's get to Mr. Budget Surplus. Why should somebody in Mbare care about the budget surplus? Because you've been talking about the budget surplus so much. What does it mean to the person in the rural area, to the person in the township who's struggling? What are the benefits to the common person?
First of all, let's go back. The opposite of surplus is a deficit. I found a hole in Treasury. That hole was a budget deficit. If you look at the last 3 years, we've had a double-digit budget deficits. In fact, for last year, our estimates are that it was as high as 11% of GDP. There are very few countries in the world with a deficit that's that high. The previous year, the same, very high budget deficit. So that's where we're coming from. We're a deficit country. And that was the source of our problems. And I don't know what happened. Because the reason why you adopt a US dollar or a hard currency as your currency, one of the reasons is to make sure that you have what you call a hard budget constraint, because you can't print the currency. But here we are running a deficit under supposedly a hard budget constraint situation. So what was going on? So it was quite clear that we had to deal with that.
Right.
So that's why then let me move on. So you've now got the 2% tax. You've got actually civil servants from the president, or actually downwards, up to the level of deputy director. I said to everyone, look, cut your salaries by 5%. We have to show Zimbabweans that we're serious about containing government expenditure. And everyone agreed. That conversation with the president for the 5% cut in my salary, his salary, everyone's salary lasted no more than 2 minutes. So there's clear commitment there. Look, we were now paying government salaries on time. There was a time when civil servants didn't know when they would get their salary. They're paying on time, they got their bonuses on time. So we had to clean that up. And in so doing, plus the revenue collection side through the 2% tax and other compliance measures, we managed to move from a deficit to a surplus. So if you look at my message of austerity for prosperity in the budget, it was a message for government itself. But of course, you can't speak to the government itself. You have to speak to the whole nation. In the end, everyone thinks we're in austerity. Minister unleashed austerity. But that was really a message for government to say, you know what, we need to live within our means.
Is that message getting across?
Oh, yes. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this surplus.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have it. That message is getting across. And I'm very pleased that it got across.
Any specific examples why you say it's getting across?
Well, if you look at the state of government waste, that has come down quite a bit. We are monitoring travel, we are monitoring vehicle usage. Up to today, we haven't bought ministers their vehicles. I'm about to deal with that, by the way. Enough, they've been accommodative, they've waited this long. The members of parliament as well, we haven't authorized the purchase of their vehicles. So but that's being sorted out. So the message is getting across in the way government behaves.
So let's be clear about this, Minister. You're saying to these people you have not bought government cars for ministers, for members of parliament.
No.
That's fact.
No, that is fact.
Okay.
But again, I'm dealing with it this week, actually.
Okay.
Look, 9 months down the line, I think it's about time. And I said to them, look, you've been very patient with me. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you for meeting the people of Zimbabwe halfway. Now, I'm ready now for us to deal with this issue, because we don't want to be parking shiny cars in front of parliament and people are unhappy.
I'm still wanting us to get to how the surplus helps the person on the street. Maybe I broke your stride there.
You did break my stride. What we're doing with the surplus, in other words, what are we doing with it? First of all, we're now using it for social protection. We've initiated a program as government dealing with partly the drought, by the way, which is upon us, feeding programs in rural areas and then feeding programs in urban areas. We've been as successful, I think, in identifying who's vulnerable in urban areas. It's much easier in rural areas because we have all the structures from the chiefs to whoever is in charge there and so forth. It's far easier, but in urban areas, not so easy. So that's one. And also, we have started a cash transfer program where we're actually paying cash to individuals who are vulnerable. You also may be aware that we've started a subsidized transportation program with ZUPCO. So basically, we're spending it for social protection purposes. That's how we're operating this surplus. By the way, the big unsaid so far is the importation of grain, importation of food. It's wheat, it's maize, it's a big one.
What amounts are we talking about?
We're actually still working out the figures, because the figures in terms of the impact of the drought, those figures are still trickling in. If you recall, we're now in the winter cropping season. So again, we're still assessing that. Now ZESA is also causing us trouble, because you need to keep those farm machinery on to plant that wheat and so forth. So we're still assessing the impact, but we know a good part of the surplus will be utilized for importation of grain. So we're going to put it to use, and people will fill it on the ground. And just look at the roads. You know, if you look at the rural roads, we're making progress on this. We make sure they're sorted out in terms of the health services, sector health services. Again, we are spending the surplus on that. So we're spreading it all over the place. I mean, look, our deficit target is 5%. So we have a lot of room to move from a surplus down to a budget deficit of 5% by year end. And we're going to spend that money to support.
The agency of social safety nets, given the kind of hurting that we're seeing, the poverty that we're seeing, one would think that more needs to be done in the urban areas, in the rural areas. It breaks my heart to see our people carrying wood for firewood and that kind of stuff. What is being done at that level so that we avoid social unrest using some strategies to deal with social safety nets?
The biggest issue on social safety nets is food. I tell you, just make sure that people don't go hungry. So we've spent a bit of time making sure that we put in place a program for delivering food. So every week in cabinet, we monitor what the deliveries are like, province by province, district by district. And this week in my office, I've actually put in some computer software which allows me to monitor the extent of vulnerability district by district. And it uses a satellite. So I've got all the data.
And what is it showing you?
That the situation is pretty serious, and that we have something like 6.7 million people around Zimbabwe who are vulnerable to hunger and to climate change, because the two are now commingled. If you look at the issue of the cyclone, that's causing hunger, but also the just strife in general, and that's caused by climate change. So we have this, and so we're tracking everything. But also, if you look at what we did with the devolution resources, again, where we've allocated monies district by district, just going out in the rural areas. What's driving that allocation is vulnerability, which is levels of poverty, obviously the size of population, quality of infrastructure, but vulnerability is what is driving that allocation. And again, I monitor those projects quite closely. In fact, today, there should be, I think, an advert, or maybe it's coming out tomorrow, where I've mapped out the whole of Mashonaland East. I know which projects we're financing in which district, and the state of each of those projects, whether they're making progress, whether they're behind. So we're doing everything we can to make sure we get down there and run the projects that need to be run to help our people.
Let's move on to perhaps one of, again, you've decided to do away with the multi-currency regime and introduced our Zim dollar. There's a lot of pushback. What was your thinking, and what's the status of with that policy initiative now?
I said before, we thought we had a hard budget constraint, having basically adopted the US dollar, but we didn't. So we had fiscal policy that was a risk to monetary policy and to the entire macro environment. But when I got in, we managed to put the fiscus under control. Then I realized that we're working on one leg. We also need monetary policy. Then you have a complete toolkit for dealing with macroeconomic issues. So we've been on the journey towards currency reform. We just didn't tell you. We started on the 1st of October.
So you didn't panic? This was not a panic move?
No, we didn't panic. We didn't panic. And so it's 1st of October, we separated the accounts last year, if you recall. Then in January, we did a quasi-currency reform in the form of the fuel price in the middle of January. And of course, the reaction was, I would say, interesting. And then on the 20th of February, we proceeded to introduce the interbank market and formally abandoned the fixed exchange rate, the 1-to-1. And finally, on the 24th, we then adopted the domestic currency. So we've been on a journey. I think the issue was maybe we moved faster on certain things, slower in certain areas. But if you recall my few interviews where I've said, we need a new currency, and people didn't believe me. And people said, but why are you saying this? I said, I'm preparing minds. It's coming. The president also, gave similar signs. So this should not have been a surprise. But of course, you can't negotiate the day you introduce a currency. You do it. If you start negotiating, people take positions, they speculate, and that's exactly what we're also trying to deal with. So we needed to restore monetary policy as part of the toolkit. Look at what we did on the day the Zimbabwe dollar was introduced. We pushed up interest rate to 50% overnight because I was aware, and I even know a specific company which will remain unmentioned, where they were borrowing RTGS at whatever 12%, and then going to the power market, take their position.
Why don't you want to mention them?
No,
you won't.
No, it's not right.
Okay.
Look, they were doing business, so I don't want to reveal their strategies, but that strategy, as they go about, it was wrecking the economy. And my job is to protect everyone. At least the government's job is to create that level playing field. So they were. So we've unleashed the monetary policy as a part of the toolkit. So you'll see us appoint a monetary policy committee that we put in place, and then also continue to strengthen the interbank market. We're quite aware that it still needs further fine-tuning. I'm the first to admit that. But now we have a full toolkit. Most people were surprised why I did not remove import duties on cars in US dollars.
I was going to ask you why.
Why? Because that's an import demand management tool. It's very effective. It's working very well because the current account deficit has shrunk substantially. Why do we need it to shrink? Because if you're going to introduce domestic currency, you don't want your import demand to become a risk to the currency and cause volatility. So you tighten your fiscal side. We have eliminated the deficit. The monetary side, you unleash the full toolkit of monetary policy instruments, including interest rate policy. On the external front, you then control imported demand. It's temporary. So we are controlling the three pillars that are necessary to stabilize a domestic currency.
How will you make sure that how will you continue to defend the currency? I mean, two questions that are interrelated. The sense that the market is getting is that the intermarket does not exist. We've got banks with their markets, but there isn't a national interbank market for transactions, and people are battling. And secondly, how are you going to ensure the value of the local currency remains where you would want it to be?
No, I would say that in terms of the interbank market, we're continuing to fine-tune to make sure that it really works. It's a process, it's a journey. I don't think we're there yet. I'm aware that the banks, they are running their own individual markets. They've got clients, so they match their clients to the exporters who supply the currency in the first place. We know what's going on, and there's no, most of the time, no national, as you say, interbank market.
That's a sticking point, Minister. How will we get to a point where there's the national interbank market, not individual banks running their own markets?
We have an idea. We have a plan of how to make that work.
You're not going to announce it here?
No, I'm not going to announce it here. Yeah, I see the deputy governor is staring at me. He says, "Not now, Minister."
Right.
So I'm not going to do that. I agree. We agree. We really need to fine-tune the market to make sure that it works. You should just be able to go to a bank and it offers you a rate. If you're an exporter, you're trying to pay school fees. It should just be like that. Yeah, we'll get there. It's a journey. If you look at countries that have gone through this, like Nigeria, for example, or Egypt, they've gone through similar steps. It takes a while, But we'll get there. You asked about protecting the value of the currency. Sorry for going deeper into economics, I apologize.
That's why we're here.
But the value of a currency is driven by the following variables. It's the state of your fiscal position, in other words, your fiscal deficit or surplus, is basically the level of interest rates, is the inflation differential between yourselves and the other countries, is the growth in money supply, and then is the state of your current account, external balance. So the sort of three pillars that I talked about, and with some variation, determine the value of your currency. So as long as we can keep a very tight leash on these variables, we'll be able to stabilize our currency. And the biggest of them all is that link between the fiscus and money supply growth. Because if you've got a fiscal deficit, you have to monetize it, you have to finance it, so you issue treasury bills, and then that is what causes money supply growth. So if you look at the growth in money supply, it hasn't moved much. But also,
so you are happy on that side?
I'm very happy with that. But also in our staff monitoring program, SMP, with the IMF, which is nothing other than a way to get the IMF to monitor what we are doing, but we know what we are doing. It was not an imposition at all. One of our targets in there is what you call the growth in high-powered money. We've got a target, and we're watching that target. As long as we watch that target, we'll be okay in terms of money supply growth. So I'm confident we can have a stable currency for some time in the future. Certainly, you won't see a runaway budget deficit under my watch. And I've been very consistent when I say not under my watch.
You've also been consistent, and dangerously so, that the people that have money in FCAs, Nostro accounts and so forth, that money is not going to be taken away from them. Like happened in 2009, and you've said, not under my watch. There's a trust deficit towards government. People don't have confidence because of what happened in the past. So you still stand by that word of yours, that commitment of yours, not under my watch would these people lose their foreign currency accounts?
Absolutely, I still stand by that commitment, not under my watch. Your US dollars or whatever currency is your money. Keep it under the mattress and keep it in your bank account, but do not use it in the shops. Use domestic currency. That's what every normal country does. You go to South Africa, you cannot buy from Woolworths in South Africa using the US dollar. Neither in the UK can use the Swiss franc to buy in a UK shop. Nor in the US, neither can you use the British pound in a normal shop at JP Max in the US. You can't do that. So we want to be a normal country. That's why you notice that in the messaging that I've been giving, the president has done the same. We want to be normal again. And this is not new. We used to be like that. What happened? In the 80s and 90s, Trevor, remember when we were growing up, we were a normal country. We had a domestic currency. Monetary policy was run properly. If you needed to travel, you had to go and apply to a bank. Back then, you used to buy travelers' checks. And that's a thing of the past now. We've since evolved. We were a normal country like all the other countries. We want to go back there.
Are we going to arrest the people that are trading at the 4th Street station and somewhere in the black market? Are we going to legislate to get them off the streets because somebody is using them to drive the rate up?
No, we're kind of aware. And also we know the characters by name, but also there's...
Why don't we arrest these people that we know by name? Why don't we deal with them?
No, but also, you know what, we also have to judge and see, are they really breaking the law, or someone just happens to have US dollars in their pockets, which is okay. You can have them, we're not going to arrest you for that. So we have to prove that they were indeed trading without a license, because that's trading without a license. Because if you need to trade currency, get a bureau de change license. Banking license is a bit more expensive, so bureau de change is okay. So that fine line is sometimes the issue. You have to prove that. So, but we have been, making sure that the law is brought to bear on them.
Minister, as you're talking, there's clearly a sense of gradual introduction of policies to deal with the malaise that we've had over the past 38 years. And it does feel like you've decided on an amputation, but you're doing this amputation gradually. And it's painful.
Yeah.
If you're going to have an amputation, why don't you go ahead and do the amputation?
Well, actually, the biggest amputation was currency. Why could we not move earlier? We had to be sure that the fiscal position was fully under control, because that was the problem in the past. So once we were convinced, we then decided to move on that. So I think that the timing has been okay at every stage. In fact, I don't know any country which has moved as fast as we have done on a lot of things. You clear a deficit, you have a currency introduction, we are dealing with the pricing on the fuel market. We've been unlucky with the drought, with the El Nino, very, very unlucky. Can you imagine if we didn't have it? We'll be flying. So I think in terms of the pace of reforms, it's been a very good pace. In fact, the cracking pace, which is almost by stealth, I don't think you're all watching, is a partial privatization process. I don't know any country which has decided to partially privatize 6 companies in 6 weeks.
Can you break down those for us?
Mm-hmm. You have got GMB. GMB, we've separated into the strategic grain reserve element, which is funded by Treasury every year. We make an allocation in the budget to buy grain for stabilizing the supply of food. We separate that from silo industries, which is the commercial arm, and we've invited suitors and shareholders for that. I received 2 offers so far. I want more. Some of them are in this room. We want to, sell down to 26% in government. Let it go. Let it do business. That's one. That was done very quickly, and I think we worked on just end of January that we did GMB actually. If you look at IDC, we've turned it into a proper development finance institution, put in a capital injection of $30 million. And then the Willowville, which is within that, we've again made a decision to sell down our equity stake as government down to 26%. I'm looking for people interested in car manufacturing and assembly. Please buy those shares. They are for you, the private sector. We want to work with you. If you look at Allied Timbers, we had challenges with governance with Allied Timbers. CEO in and out of jail, a board that is non-functional, squatters taking over the fields. You had people cutting down 15-year-old timber to make firewood and to grow maize. So the value of that timber was not well understood. So we're cleaning all of that now, and we're getting to a stage that now we want to partially privatize it. With ZMDC, the story has been slightly different. Trevor, you want to hear this? We had 6 companies. What is it called? Sandawana, which you all know as an emerald mine. They have a lot of gold. In fact, it's probably more of a gold mine than an emerald mine. We didn't even know that. So here we are trying to sell.
And the state-owned.
Oh, I tell you, trying to sell companies, and we had no idea what was underground. We're just giving away value. We said, oh no, hold on. Let's do some prospecting and be clear that we know what's underground, and we can sell those for good value. So we pulled back. That was also a major decision as well. We're making progress with POSB. By year end, the People's Own Savings Bank will reach a point where again we're offloading the equity. And my view is let's get down to 26%. In fact, I would like to see POSB listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. The same thing applies to the telecoms companies. You were surprised when we rebundled Net1 and Tel1. Mm-hmm. I thought, you know what? You cannot sell them separate. They're not viable. That was my decision. They're not viable. So if you're going to compete with another gorilla in the market, Econet, they have to be rebundled. So rebundle them. But rebundling doesn't mean that they have to merge physically. All we're saying is that when we sell them as a package. So basically you have to create a special purpose vehicle with 100% equity in each of the entities, Net1, Tel1, and the buyer buys an equal number of shares in each of these. It's up to them if they wish to cause a merger later, but they have to talk to government because we'll remain a 26% shareholder. Again, I would like to see those 2 entities listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange so that ordinary citizens can buy.
That's great progress.
It's great progress on the partial privatization program.
Let's get to something that one of my colleagues was supposed to be here. He's not here because his generator could not start. and he couldn't have a bath, so he's not here, sadly.
I'm so sorry for that.
That minister speaks to the crisis that we face on electricity.
That's right.
On petrol and diesel, which in a huge way undermines whatever progress that you're talking about. Because when people are in the queues, sleeping in the queues, trying to get fuel, when people don't have power at home, power comes at 10 p.m. It's switched up at 5 a.m. What is being done in the long term on both petrol, diesel, and electricity? Because this is a matter that is going to make this government very unpopular if it is not resolved very quickly.
I agree with you. I think the power situation is very serious. But the biggest cause of it is actually the weather. I don't think we had fully understood as government the full impact of El Nino on the water levels in Kariba. When Kariba is full, it's typically about 65 million cubic meters of water, cubic liters of water rather, and then we're down to about 20 million cubic liters of water right now. So it's a huge shift. We're only about 29% full or something. So power generation has gone right down. In fact, it is halved, and we're always in a deficit as a country. So that's a major issue. So what are we doing about it? I think I would say there's a short term, then medium to long term. Short term, and medium term is really to begin to get into very serious demand management strategies. Categorize your users of electricity, different categories, is a residential, low density, high density, is the corporates, the manufacturing sector, the mining sector. There's no reason why the mining sector shouldn't pay a tariff that is index linked to the exchange rate, because these are earners of foreign currency in the first place. So we need a differentiated tariff structure, but also manage the demand differently. Maybe for agriculture, we should be saying that you should only irrigate during the night. Just different ideas, but that's not for me to run, that's for the Minister of Energy to run. So demand management strategy, but then we move on to supply management strategies, which is we get power from thermal, which is coal, and then there's hydro, but then we also import. You can't do much about hydro quickly enough, or indeed thermal, but you can do something about importation. So we've been in negotiations with Mozambique at the level of the principals, the presidents, to enter into some financing arrangement for increased supply from Cahora Bassa Dam. One of the upsides of the cyclone that Idai is that the Cahora Bassa Dam is 96% full.
Wow.
But while Kariba is only 29% full. So it's the exact opposite. So we're going to get more power from there. And then Eskom, of course, from South Africa. Again, we're negotiating for
What's the nature of arrangement with Eskom? I mean, they have their own challenges. You've paid them 10 million. Do they have capacity to export some of their power to us anymore?
Indeed, there is capacity under regional cooperation.
Okay.
We've got the SADC
Should
power
we expect
pool.
any change soon on the power side because of the South African discussions?
Yes, we should, in Mozambique discussions. But also we had a breakdown in Wanke, which made the power situation very difficult, especially in the last 3 weeks. And we're being told that's being amended. So that's the kind of short-term situation. But again, still on power supply management in the medium term, not current medium term, is the issue of renewable energy. I think we've been too slow in embracing renewable energy in Zimbabwe. With so much sunshine, where are the solar farms? I was going through an incredible video last night for the site in Morocco, one of the largest solar farms in the world, if not the largest. It's called the Noor Ozazat Complex in Morocco. That's the model if you want to do solar energy. Huge, literally it's a farm of solar panels. And with so much land, sunshine, why can't we have solar farms which can then feed into the grid? We are able
So we are fully now convinced, mindset is set that solar energy is the way to go, and our structure and policy, everything is in place to allow that to happen?
Yes, the policy is in place, but I don't understand why that is not happening in terms of investment and so forth. We've just been too slow, but that's for the medium term. We need to deal with that. And then the other thing is that we have this report from PwC about the goings on at ZESA in terms of just the internal operations of the company. That also needs to be dealt with. And then finally, is about the tariff as well. In US dollar terms, the tariff is low. I've been in the past been quoted as being unhappy about an automatic increase in the tariff. Why? Because I wanted these three other things to be dealt with. Let's understand the demand management, the supply management, the internal issues in terms of the company, because we rebundled. What are the efficiencies that have come out of that? And then you can say, having done all of these things, we still need to increase the tariffs. So that's the power issues in terms of dealing with that.
So where are you now with adjusting the tariffs? Is that going to happen? Do we have an idea how much is going to happen, particularly with the background of a populace that's hurting already?
Yeah.
What's your thinking there?
In fact, that was my worry about a hasty decision to increase tariffs and just push up inflation. We are hurting people. But now I'm thinking, hang on, if you're only getting power during the night when you are asleep and you don't need it, it maybe doesn't matter if the tariff goes up after all. So I'm more sanguine now. But I think I've also received enough, at least convincing in terms, I've been convinced enough about these other measures in addition to the tariff. In terms of how much, I can't say at this stage. Those simulations are being done. I think soon we'll know, and then we should be able to make an announcement. But we have no choice. We have to raise the tariff, but we'll make sure that it is not as high as it could have been before when we slowed it down. But also what we've done as Treasury, we have paid all of ZESA's debts locally. It's coming to about 21 million. Not ZESA's debts. It's out of the debts that ZESA has with government entities, local authorities and so forth, other parastatals. We pay that off as Treasury.
So that's been paid off?
Yeah, we paid off. Yes, we cleared that. It's about 20 million RTGS dollars. We clear that off. And then we also pay the 10 million to ESCOM, and we'll continue to pay some more. So that has given ZESA liquidity that it badly needs.
Minister, my parting shot to you is you've been in charge now for 10 months. Is there anything that you would want to do differently? Is there anything that you have done that you would want to change?
What I want to change is really communication. Is to communicate better. And I agree with that. It has been raised in other forums. You need to deal with communication. I think that is very, very critical.
Right.
That's one thing I need to deal with.
Right. On that note, we will end, and thank you so much, everybody.